Coming up today, Britain decides on its membership in the European Union. Voting in the high-stakes referendum has just ended. Counting will go through the night. The UN Security Council condemns North Korea's latest ballistic missile launches. It calls on all UN member states to slap toughened sanctions on the rogue states. Plus, President Park Geun-hye warns North Korea may launch more provocations in protest against the increasingly stifling international sanctions imposed against it. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello and welcome. It's 6 a.m. on Friday, June 24th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to our early morning edition of Arirang News. Our top story this morning: voting has just ended in Britain's historic referendum on whether the country should remain within the European Union or leave. Polling stations shut just a couple of minutes ago at 10 p.m. British Standard Time. Counting will continue through the night, but we could have a decent picture of the result by 3 a.m. BST, that's noon Korea time, about 6 hours from now. The official results should be out by 7 or 8 a.m. BST, about 3 to 4 p.m. Korea time. Whichever side gets more than half of all votes cast is considered to have won. There was some typical British weather on voting day, with heavy rain and thunderstorms in London and southeast England, which caused flooding overnight. We'll have to see whether that affected the turnout in those areas. We'll have all the latest on the early results during our next news bulletin at 10 a.m. Korea time. The UN Security Council has issued a statement strongly condemning North Korea's latest ballistic missile launches. It said Wednesday's test firings were a grave violation of the ban on all ballistic missile activity that is contributing to the country's nuclear weapons program. The Council reiterated its demand that North Korea end its flagrant violations, halt all nuclear tests and ballistic missile activity, and comply with 5 UN resolutions imposed since the country's first nuclear test in 2006. The statement was approved by all 15 members. The Council added that the launches improve North Korea's nuclear delivery systems and increase tension in the region. The Council called on all UN member states to redouble their efforts to fully implement sanctions against North Korea. And South Korea's defense minister has vowed to upgrade the nation's defense readiness following North Korea's test firing this week of those 2 ballistic missiles. President Park Geun-hye says Pyongyang is unlikely to change its ways anytime soon, so a strong deterrent is essential. Song Ji-sun with the details.
President Park Geun-hye ordered her army to maintain full defense readiness in case of North Korean provocations at a meeting Thursday with the chief commanders of the South Korean military that followed their biannual gathering earlier in the day. In light of North Korea's latest missile launch, President Park said that it's unlikely that Pyongyang will change in the near future and that further provocations could also be on the way.
북한이 변화의 길을 택할 때까지 강력한 제재와 압박을 계속해 나갈 것입니다. 이를 위해 무엇보다도 중요한 것이 우리 군의 빈틈없는 군사 대비 태세와 강력한 억제력입니다.
Defense Minister Han Min-gu said that North Korea's provocations are at the worst level since the Korean War armistice, endangering the country's national security.
The South Korean military must maintain full defense readiness to immediately counter any North Korean provocations and discourage Pyongyang from even daring to plot any aggressions.
The South Korean military will continue to develop its Korea air missile defense and kill chain to equip defense systems against the North missiles by the 2020s. In alliance with the United States, South Korea will also engage in its 4D operational plan, which is a preemptive measure to destroy the North missiles that stands for detect, disrupt, destroy, and defend. Seoul warned Pyongyang if it launches another provocation and advances its weapons program in defiance of the international community, it will face even stronger sanctions and put itself on a path to complete isolation and eventual self-destruction. 송지선, Arirang News.
Now, furious with a recent string of North Korean defections by workers at Pyongyang-run restaurants in China, Kim Jong-un has reportedly called for terrorist attacks against South Korean nationals. A source close to North Korea told South Korea's Yonhap news agency that the targets are South Korean customers at North Korean restaurants. The source claims the specific method would involve restaurant staff luring South Korean trading officials and patrons into private rooms, drugging them and either kidnapping them or conducting some kind of terror attack. Previously, the South Korean government sought active cooperation from major travel agencies to ensure South Korean nationals avoid North Korean restaurants in areas that border China and North Korea. More developments in the prosecution's probe into allegations of embezzlement and slush funds at Lotte Group. It has emerged that Korea's fifth largest conglomerate has dozens of offshore companies in international tax havens. Lee Min-young with the latest.
Korea's fifth largest conglomerate, Lotte Group, turns out to be running some 4 dozen offshore units in suspected tax havens, adding to other issues that have engulfed the embattled group, such as allegations of embezzlement and slush funds. According to the corporate analysis agency Korea 20,000 Corporate Research Institute, 46 units out of Lotte's 256 overseas subsidiaries are based in countries known as tax havens as of 2016. That mounts up to 18% of all overseas units. Lotte is running 26 affiliates in Hong Kong, the largest number, followed by Singapore with 9, 5 in the Netherlands, and 3 in the Cayman Islands. There is also a unit in Luxembourg, Mauritius, and the British Virgin Islands each. These countries are usually known as tax havens since businesses are allowed to pay fewer tax, if any. And some of these countries are yet to ink tax agreements with Korea, thus making it difficult to track down tax evasion by Korean companies.
Korea has yet to sign a tax agreement with Hong Kong. This means that the company's account details and information on tax payments are mostly untraceable, which could be a hurdle when it comes to investigating the company.
The expert added that although there is no concrete evidence pointing at Lotte deliberately choosing tax havens for its overseas units, the findings still raise suspicions on the group's activities.
Lotte Group controls a large number of overseas units branched out to these tax havens in many layers, which exhibits a highly complex structure. Also, some strongly suspicious activities were detected, such as building up a hotel in Russia, while the controlling company has its office in the Netherlands.
Early this month, prosecutors launched an all-out investigation into Lotte over its alleged embezzlement and slush funds. So far, Lotte has denied any wrongdoing. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
Now to another huge company in hot water. Volkswagen has reportedly agreed on a multi-billion-dollar compensation plan for its emissions cheating scandal in the United States. Sources familiar with the matter say the German auto giant will pay out nearly $10.3 billion to settle claims from US owners of the affected diesel-powered vehicles. The settlement includes offers to buy back some of the 500,000 vehicles that contain software capable of duping government emissions tests. The sources say the average compensation to owners will be around $5,000. Separately, Volkswagen is expected to set aside more than $4 billion for green energy projects and a program to offset excess diesel pollution. The settlement does not address lawsuits filed by US states or investors or a criminal investigation by the Justice Department. Korea's nuclear security watchdog has approved plans to build 2 nuclear power plants in the southern port city of Ulsan. The Shingori Units 5 and 6 are expected to be completed by 2021 and 2022 respectively, bringing the number of reactors in Korea to 30. The project will cost $7.5 billion. The reactors will boost Korea's electricity supply and benefit regional economic development, but As you'd imagine, really, there is a local opposition due to safety concerns, fueled most intensely by the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. Sharing economy companies such as Airbnb and Uber continue to become a bigger presence in global markets. At the same time, such businesses present regulatory challenges for governments which are struggling to keep up. For more on how Korea is handling the changes, Kwon Jang-ho reports.
Here's something that wouldn't have been possible just a few years ago. I have this handwritten Korean note. The handwriting is pretty bad, but I'll take a picture of it and upload it onto this app, and hopefully someone will get back to me with a translation. Flitto is a peer-to-peer crowdsourced translation app that finds other multilingual users around the world who are willing to translate instead of expensive professional services or inaccurate machine translations. So within about 30 seconds, I've received an accurate translation, even with my bad handwriting. Dubbed disruptive technology, the advancements in smartphone technology and the mobile internet have made these kind of new services possible. Crowdsourced and sharing economy businesses were said to be worth $15 billion in 2013, but that's expected to grow to $335 billion by 2025, in addition to making up half of the traditional rental market. In Korea, car sharing is an industry that has really taken off in the last few years. Just with a few taps, anyone can find and book a car nearby without waiting, hire it in 10-minute chunks, and park in locations of your choosing. It's cheaper, faster, and more convenient than traditional car rental services. But the growth of these industries have not come without their problems. SoCar was one of Korea's first car-sharing companies established 5 years ago, but it's still continuing to iron out legal issues.
It's obviously difficult to anticipate what legal regulations will be needed in the future, so it's up to the businesses to step up and challenge the existing laws that have not kept up with new services, and then find a way to work with the government.
But with the country facing an economic slowdown, there's pressure for the government to put traditional industries first.
At the moment, protecting existing businesses is a priority for the government, and so growth will be difficult. It will take time for the sharing economy to really take hold, and it will require the legal systems to become more accommodating.
If more companies like Flitto and SoCar continue to find success, the pressure will be on to put the requisite changes in place. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Now, Korea is a country well known around the world as a place where the past and the present coexist. The gate guarding ceremony, which has been a tradition that dates back centuries to the Joseon Dynasty, in fact, was held at Sungnaemun Gate on Thursday for the first time in 8 years, and it is a welcome return for the nation's most important national treasure, which was severely damaged by arson back in 2008. Oh Jang-hee reports.
Soldiers dressed in Joseon Dynasty uniforms march in unison to Sungnaemun Gate carrying a number of large flags. The gate is the main entrance to the fortress surrounding Joseon's historical capital Hanyang, a predecessor of Seoul. The soldiers are participating in a traditional changing of the guard ceremony, one of the Joseon Dynasty's most important military rituals. The soldiers check each other's identities and exchange the palace keys. 4 guards armed with rifles remain behind to stay on watch.
The guards have returned to the Sungnaemun Gate for the first time since the historic structure was destroyed 8 years ago to perform the traditional gate guarding ceremony.
Tourists express that the traditional ceremony helps them grasp the atmosphere of Korea's history and past.
As a foreigner, it's really good experience because Seoul is just a big city and a modern city, and just suddenly to find this in the middle of Seoul is amazing to remind us like old times of Seoul, and it's just really great. Or make me think of how this could be like 600 years ago.
Combat practices of the Joseon Dynasty are also reenacted at the nearby Seoul Square, entertaining both residents and foreign visitors alike. The king makes his royal progress to the square accompanied by over 100 soldiers and personnel. He sees the soldiers split into two groups and fight, evaluating their combat capabilities. Soldiers show off their speed and accuracy, swinging their swords at their rivals while defending themselves. A magnificent view of the Joseon Dynasty's military events decorated the heart of contemporary Seoul, giving spectators a glimpse of the past and the present day. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you, as always, for watching. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. So until then, goodbye.